back, weekly energy reading from the children to the parents. So inside of this, they, so the first group, so pick a message, number 1 or number 2, and how you're going to be answered. The children in general are just very they're burnt out. They're kind of taxed out. We've had enough time into summer where now the routines are boring and they're burnt out, and it was exciting and it was different, and now it's just too much of the same. So it's kind of where the whole collective of children is feeling. They're yeah, peace, this is not for me. I don't really want this anymore. So you're going to see it in a few different ways. That's what we'll get into in the messages. So message number 1, these kiddos need a giant reset. So it's kind of what we see when you have that first week of summer. It's a little bit of chaos, but you have no real schedules, structures haven't started yet. And there's just a little bit of this is a little crazy. This is a little weird. We're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. That's really what the spirit of this child is desiring. They want things to be exciting. They want things to be exhilarating. They kind of want them to be a little unscripted. Now in the realm of parenting, that's a little bit harder. So what I see, it's kind of like Spirit Week. If you remember this from your days in high school or, wherever you would have this, but it's kind of Monday is whatever theme and Tuesday is whatever theme. And though you can still follow a structure inside of that. So it's you can still have them going to the camps that they're going to. You can still have them at home doing whatever they're doing. But then inside of it each day, there's something to be excited for. They don't want this long-term because long-term means that becomes a standard. They just want this to kind of flash in and kind of revitalize their spirit of summer and their own internal spirit. So, think Wacky Wednesday reversed, or opposite Tuesday, whatever you want to do, right? You can think and really bring them in to curate what this is going to look like. So that's the biggest theme. I feel this whole summer is bring these kids inside the planning process. They really, really want it. They desire it, and they're ready to do that. So that's message number 1 for you as the parent. It's almost don't overthink this. You don't have to go and buy 8 million things. You don't have to make use what you already have. You have the tools at home. You have the resources at home. You have the goofy things. That's almost the best part is if there were a party or a Halloween party, you're not going to run out to the store and buy a costume. You're actually just going to create one at home. Kind of go back in time and think of it like that. That's what you're going to do inside of this hot refresh reset kind of a week, which is what that child wants. They want it to be fun. They don't want it to be stressful. So they're just stuck in this mundane rut and they're not really enjoying it very much. So that is message number 1. Okay, so for message number 2, so this group of children, so this child for you is they're also kind of sick of the mundane. We have a few cross threads between 1 and 2 here, but the difference is number 1 wants to have their normal life, just super fun spin on it. They don't want to leave. Message number 2, these kids need they don't need a reset. They need a shift. They need a change in perspective. They want to move. They're looking for big changes. So it's kind of if you up and bought a camper and went and traveled the rest of the summer in a camper, that's kind of what they're desiring. Obviously that sort of adventure is not just right there accessible for everybody. So that's that's sometimes a balance between what the child desires in their spirit and what is humanly possible. So to bridge the spirit up here and then this 3D realm where we can't always bring that to fruition here, but what we can do is bring elements of this into that. So it's something I always get to in my readings where I'm I'm almost this little mediator between the 3D reality and then the spirit of this child where I'm okay, you have this desire that's great and here's what it looks like inside your family structure. Does this work for you? Does this not? Are you going to be happy or are you still going to revolt, right? That's kind of what we do. I see it a lot in dog readings too. The dogs have so much to say and they want so many things and it's you can't always have it all. And there are ways to bridge that. So for this child, they need a change of scenery. If you can pick up and go to the cabin for a week, if you can go camping, you could even just have nights that you camp out, right? Get a tent or sleep in the back of a car if it's not too hot, right? Just something that totally gets them out of their element, out of their groove. If there are new camps that you've been interested in putting them in, or kind of there's this all of a sudden opportunity to send them to a day camp or a week-long camp or something that really just pulls them up and out and gets them into a new environment. This is what this child needs. Different from message number 1. Message number 1, they don't want to change. They just need pizzazz inside their week. They want it to be this reset inside the energy and the fun. This kid, message number 2, that child needs difference, needs a change, needs whatever. So it might look It might even look like rearranging their room is such a good way to shift and restructure energies. I see this a lot inside my child codes readings where I'm like, ooh, like their bed needs to be facing, their head when they sleep needs to be facing north, or they're, they can't be up against the bathroom, whatever. You don't have to get into all the feng shui of it in this time, but just kind of see like, oh, how can we change the living room around? How can we change the entry around? Like, let's, on the side of the road, we saw a bench. Let's pick it up and let's bring it into our house. Like that sort of change is going to shift the energy just enough so that their like unsettled spirit can start to like feel like they're coming back down. So it's a little bit interesting. It's a little bit weird in terms of like what they're asking for inside of like, if you're able to do it and you're able to like take a week off of work or just up and leave or whatever you need to do, great. That is so what this child needs. If that's not possible or not possible like now, obviously, right? Like you can't just... could really, but you're not always going to. So inside of that, like how can we bring that reality into this current space for them? And it's going to look like sleeping in a tent, rearranging their room. Like we're coming into like school season for the older kids. It might look like new clothes. It might look like going and like checking out some of those like rummage sales or garage sales and just seeing like there's almost like a new identity they'd like to take on. So really shifting that energy and in the realm of new identity, it's like it's all about like this growing up. Like they just want to be older, they just want to be cooler, they just want to like they just have something. So it's like we're seeing a lot of this even as adults. We're kind of like, yeah, those clothes I've had for 5 years, they don't work for me anymore. So like just roll with it, right? And where and when you can as a family. So that is what I've got for you. Definitely don't make it hard, make it easy, make it flowing. If you are stressed trying to deliver this to the children in either message that came through, it will like destroy the energy of it. And then it'll just be kind of like this explosion. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be fun. So it's kind of like, how can you bring them in, find support, bring them in, have them support you inside of it, and then deliver it in a way that isn't going to be taxing. It isn't going to be struggle bus. It's just going to be like, this is just what's so, and this is easy, and this is how we flow, because they need to see that life can be fun and easy, not just like, if it's fun, that means mom is super stressed. If it's not fun, that means, like they've got all these like ultimatums against themselves, and we kind of need to start bridging them back together. So I hope that makes sense, and let me know below which message you picked and if it landed for you. And then inside, we have so much happening astrologically this week. So really, get tapped in if you are called to and start to learn some of that. You're going to see this in your kiddos. Like we have these like north nodes switching, we have Venus going retrograde. Like there's all these big terms, right? Like it doesn't mean anything if you don't know what it means. So go and look at the people who do astrology and tap into how they feel, how they're explaining how it's going to feel, how it's going to look. I'm seeing a ton of it with my kiddos and with like plenty of people in my practice where they're like, what is going on this week? Like there's so much going on, and it's really about like stepping out. We just had a new moon, stepping into this new reality, stepping into new beginnings and all this really beautiful potent stuff. So you're going to see that in your kiddos. They're going to ask for things they've never asked for before. Just start to open that conversation that says like, okay, like it doesn't mean you change everything overnight. It just means like, we're stepping over here and we're going to see what that looks like for you and how can we make it happen. Okay? Have a wonderful week.